G'day. Have you ever opened up your garage door and looked in and seen nothing but disappointment? That old rover and that old mining ship that just, well, they don't really scratch the itch anymore, do they? There's nothing exciting about them. There's nothing you really want to use them for. I mean, I suppose you could take it and drive it off a cliff. At least then it might be a little bit exciting. If that sounds familiar, then I've got the rover for you. Introducing the new Goose. The Goose is all about survival. This is a rover built in survival, built for survival, and ready for survival. You should be able to take any load you need in this up some pretty impressive hills thanks to its built-in jet thrusters. And for those of you who get a little bit excited going downhill, it's even got braking thrusters, not only on the cabin, but also on the trailer. If this sounds like the vehicle for you, make sure you keep watching as we go through each of the features and how we can use them. The Goose is a pretty sizable and complex machine. It's capable of carrying up to 250,000 units of ore, and that's on realistic settings. So on ×3 it's going to be a lot more, and ×10 a lot more again. If we look inside between these cargo containers, you'll see some special features that are hidden. There are our reactors, our timer blocks for our disconnecting and reconnecting of the trailer, and finally, we've actually got a set of parallelized conveyor sorters to allow us to empty out the butterball or any other miner you choose to attach to this as quickly as possible. It has multiple safety lighting systems, including surrounding lights and these rotor-mounted spotlights on top of the trailer, giving you extra visibility at night to try and avoid those pesky trees. It comes with a light machine gun. This probably won't provide much protection in a serious firefight, but if you come across something by accident, it'll at least mean you can shoot back as you turn tail and run. And speaking of running, despite the looks, this thing can get up to quite a decent clip. And the way it does that is by having these big jet thrusters on the front. We can control these from our first hotbar with the press of 1, and if we unpark, which we can safely do without disconnecting the miner on the back, we can then test this out. Let's see how fast we can go. We're pretty quickly up to 30 meters a second, 40, 50, and we're still able to tolerate the slight undulations of this terrain, even going at 70. Oh, now we're losing control, and we've lost it. So you probably don't want to go up to quite those speeds. It's not the safest thing to do, but you should be able to travel around reasonably flat terrain at about 20 meters a second, which is fairly good for a ship or vehicle of this size. These tests are all being done with a full load of ore in the containers. That means that we're at our maximum risk of rolling if we turn at high speed, and almost losing it, but not quite. Oh, that's going to be a bit rough. But she holds it. Excellent. Love it when you accidentally test something that actually works out okay. As this is a semi-truck design, you are going to need to be cautious turning at high speeds. However, the way that the hitch is designed, it does allow for some forgiveness, as you just saw. The rotation of the trailer on the truck will be limited, hopefully enough that you shouldn't end up with too many problems, as long as you keep the speed to around 20 meters a second. As long as you're careful and you don't drive on the side of a hill while also turning to further rotate the vehicle. In that case, you may end up with a roll, which will be quite an expensive mistake. Now, those thrusters on the front, they're not really there to allow us to get up to high speed. What they are there for is for allowing us to get up steep hills. Now, we don't necessarily need them most of the time. The wheels provide an impressive amount of driving force, and that shape you can see in the distance, that is where I'm going to demonstrate how powerful these wheels can be as we go over a jump. Oh, that didn't end well. These slopes in front of us are 2x1x1 slopes, set up so that we can drive straight up and hopefully straight down. On this slope, and again, full load of ore, we are using just wheel power. In fact, I'm going to stop and prove that our wheels can hold us on this slope. And if I unpark, I can drive up this slope without needing my thrusters at all. There will be situations when you're driving around on normal ground where you might want to have those thrusters. Particularly getting to the top of a hill like this can be quite difficult. And this is a point where I will demonstrate a slight limitation of this design. If we have a look closely, and we'll hop out to show this, although we get pretty good clearance most of the time with our trailer hitch design, unfortunately you will struggle if you have an interface between slopes and flat without this gap in the center. And this gap in the center allows these to dip below the height of that angle. I didn't really design this truck with this sort of slope in mind, but if you're happy to drive up to ramps like this, it should not be a problem for you. As you can see, we can still get up here and we can still use those slopes as we would like. To connect and disconnect the trailer is quite a simple task. We have timer blocks set up in the trailer that allow us to simply press 7 and the trailer will disconnect. You can watch this a little more closely from under here. We see that the rotors will turn down, the pistons will extend, they'll lift the trailer, and then it'll disconnect. Now the trailer and the truck are separate. And there we go. Now with this truck separated from the trailer, it is important to note that it is very front heavy. So you will want to be careful about how quickly you drive with it. Hopefully you'll only be driving around with this thing for short periods on its own. But this is something you can achieve with it. If we get up to a little bit of a clip, you can pull quite the stoppie. Oh dear. A little too much of a stoppie. Oh dear. Let's fix that. Cut. And paste. In survival, that would be far greater of a disaster. Let's drive back up and let's re-hitch onto the trailer. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. No. No. Oh man. Let's try that again. Now that we're ready to reattach to the trailer, we can take advantage of another setting that's on our second toolbar. If we have a look, we've got on the first two settings, we've got our suspension strength. On the second two, which is 3 and 4, we've got our power. 5 and 6 is friction, and 7 and 8 are our speed limit. So if we reduce our power so that we stop doing that every time we reverse, let's do that. Let's drop it down to somewhere around there. Now when we reverse, we'll be nice and slow. This is good because it allows us the finer degree of control we need so that we can reconnect to the trailer. And back we go. That should be good. Then we can go back to our first hotbar, press 8. Oh, mustn't be quite there. Press 8, there we go. Hooked up, press 9, and everything will reset to its previous position. There we go. Trailer mount's going and stowing itself, and now we can drive off. And we can even increase our power back up. The next thing I'd like to demonstrate is the additional braking thrusters. We've got 2 on the front truck part and 4 on the trailer. And those are controlled by 2 and 3 on our hotbar. And you can see that the ones on the rear are set to an override on the trailer. Those will simply switch on and off as you press 3. And the ones on 2, they are actually directly controlled by the player, which is kind of convenient. And they'll slow us down a reasonable amount, certainly allowing us a bit more braking power, or a fair bit more braking power, than the wheels alone. And even forcing us to go in reverse if we don't switch them off. And now we enter night mode, where it's pretty dang dark out here. So let's turn off our player headlight, let's hop in the truck, and let's get some headlights going on around it. So if we press L to turn on our front headlight, we can see a little bit, but that's what these rotor mounted spotlights are for. they give us even more visibility. And if you're going to have to reverse, well, these will help you a little bit with number 6. And if you really need a bit more, you can even access the butterball lights and go with this and turn them on. And now we can see out the rear as well. And that could be pretty handy. This blueprint does come with the butterball attached, at least if you build it in creative. Unfortunately, building this in survival is going to be a bit of a challenge. One unfortunate side effect of this being a truck and trailer design with the rotor-based hitch is that loading this in a projector in survival, you're not going to be able to build the whole thing. Sadly, subgrids do not get projected at this stage, so you won't be able to build the trailer at the same time as building the truck. You can, however, use a separate blueprint for the trailer and the truck, build the two of them, build the pistons and mounting points for the trailer, and then hitch up the truck as I did before. You will need to set up the control systems yourself, but that would make it buildable in survival. The last thing I want to do today is drive this off a cliff. If you've got any ideas of things we should add to this build, let me know. We'll be back with more survival tomorrow, so I'll see you then.